every person in this room knows who I am.
Do we?
I'm sure that every man, woman, and child has heard my name alongside praise and positive remarks. My work has influenced that of future scientists, even while I was still alive. It will continue to influence their work for generations to come, for all time. In my relatively short time here on Earth, I managed to influence the human race for the remainder of their time here. From modest beginnings, I rose to become one of the most important, influential, and public figures in all of human history. By the end of my speech, the wise, learned, and clear-minded among you, which is of course most of you, will unanimously agree on my point, that of everyone present here, and indeed of the entire human race, I am the most suited to lead the humans to success and grandness. A person of above average intelligence is called by his friends smart. One of exceptional intelligence is regarded as a genius by his peers. But someone who is intelligent to a degree where it appears almost superhuman, whose capacity for knowledge appears unlimited, that person is known as an Einstein. My beginnings were humble. I was born to a middle-class German family in the city of Ulm in 1879. Only 15 years later, my father's company failed, leaving the family without a source of income for a time. However, we forged on, making do with what we had. As a boy, I toyed with whatever materials I could find, building models and mechanical devices for my own enjoyment. Of particular fascination to me was a pocket compass my father showed me, and certain books on geometry and philosophy given to me as a boy. Perhaps these things seem trivial, but I assure you that they are not. That simple little device and those books would, in large part, inspire me to become the man I am today, and would inspire the monumental legacy I left behind me. In 1900, at the young age of 21, I received my mathematics and physics teaching diploma for the Zurich Polytechnic. Despite the diploma, due to difficult times and my being so young and a foreigner, it would be difficult to gain a job as a professor. Instead, I secured a job in a patent office in Switzerland. 6 days a week, I would be enclosed in office walls, performing exceptionally menial tasks. Perhaps some would see this as an impediment. They would sit there cursing their misfortune. That, however, could not be farther from what I did. Instead, I took advantage of my times there to ponder and think, to contemplate the mysteries of the universe and life, and to further my career as a physicist. A couple of years later, in 1905, I would have what is popularly known as my miracle year. It was then that I would publish the first 4 scientific papers of my career. I was not known in any sense of the word. I was a young, inexperienced, 26-year-old physicist working in a patent office, never having done anything to make a name for myself. And in these conditions, I dared to challenge the world of science. To publish some of the most daring and outlandish papers that the world has ever seen. Play the game for more than you can afford to lose. Only then will you learn the game. As a good friend of mine, Winston Churchill, once said. My very first paper, which proposed the existence of a new elementary particle, the photon, would eventually win me the Nobel Prize for Physics. Infinitely more important, that same year I would publish my paper on special relativity. The scope of this particular paper was such that it began to dismantle over 200 years of known physics, established by my hero, Isaac Newton. The ideas presented in this paper are now at the very core of physics, used by every single physicist who would ever come after me. At the tender age of 26, I had already left an impact on the scientific world whose magnitude cannot be described in words. I was not, however, satisfied, not nearly. I realized that my theory of special relativity applied only to very specific scenarios, and so its usefulness was quite limited. I set out then to develop my even more important theory of general relativity, which should apply to all scenarios. I believe that every question could be answered simply with a short, concise equation. For 8 years, between 1907 and 1915, I toiled away formulating my theory of general relativity. Finally, it was done, and I published it. The scientific community, upon seeing my paper, was, understandably, in shock and disbelief. If what I said was true, then it would mean that Newtonian physics, with which we had been working with for well over 2 centuries, had been, in a word, wrong. So then begins the long 5-year worldwide quest to either prove or disprove my theory. The hardships and obstacles put in my path are too many to list here, but know that they included a world war, weather, and some of my colleagues being captured as prisoners of war while attempting to prove my theory. In the end, however, I was proven correct. My theories transcended battle lines and any alliances or ententes. I, a German, with the aid of an American and a Brit, proved my theories correct. The world, scientific and otherwise, burst into an uproar, lauding me as the greatest scientific mind to have ever walked the earth. Newspaper headlines stated that I had given the world a new answer to the universe, and other such things. And in essence, that is exactly what I did. My theories and papers continue to be used today in all areas of physics. Anything and everything related to physics uses my theories. Perhaps you scoff at my speech, thinking that under the impressive resume, there's nothing that says I'm a great leader. But I, against all odds, rose to be the most well-known man in all of human history. Not only that, but by all accounts, the very first paper I published, at the age of 26, would have been considered an immensely successful career for any scientist. I refused, however, to sit back and rest on that glory. I continued to rack my brain with new problems, new questions on the universe, never satisfied. I insisted on progress forever and always. When the First World War came to Germany, amidst the raving nationalism and militaristic pride, I stood, an ardent pacifist. I believed in peace, that war was not necessary. And it was not. It never is. Never is the pointless waste of millions upon millions of lives a necessary thing. Think for a moment. Could not one of those young men have been the next Einstein, the next Churchill, the next great leader, scientist, mathematician, or even entertainer? No human is useless. But when thrown into the hell that is war, every human is stripped of any talents, any characteristics he possesses that make him unique, and then he is killed, all on the gamble of some higher political power who wanted it that way. I am a firm believer in peace, and I know that, chosen to lead, I would avoid wars and bring about peace forever. Perhaps unending world peace seems like an unrealistic goal, but so was toppling over 200 years of work in the field of physics, across battle lines, in the midst of the most violent war the world has ever seen. So was winning the Nobel Prize for Physics with the first paper of my scientific career. So was becoming a worldwide celebrity in such an obscure position as theoretical physicist. There is no need for humans to limit themselves with terms like unrealistic and realistic, for these are self-imposed limits, and the moment you place a limit on yourself, all is lost. Finally, I am aware that math and physics are not, and will never be, the answer to all the world's problems. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. I am aware that to solve a uniquely challenging problem, one must come up with a unique solution. For an impossible problem, an impossible solution. Truly, there is nothing impossible in our universe. Progress is what comes when impossibility yields to one of the strongest forces in our universe, necessity.